The Martian is from 2015. Quick summary description: an astronaut becomes stranded on Mars after his team assumes he's dead, and he must rely on his ingenuity to find a way to signal to Earth that he's alive. Directed by Ridley Scott, written by Drew Goddard and Andy Weir, who wrote the book, starring Matt Damon, Jessica Chastain, and a whole bunch of great people. So I put this pick here because I watched this movie right when I moved back to San Francisco after a pretty long stretch of time in LA, about 6 years, which is sort of where Alex and I met. And this was kind of a plan in the making over the last few years that, oh, I would love to go back to San Francisco because I went to grad school there. And there's something that just felt like was calling me. And I'll probably get into a little bit more on that in some of my other picks as to what it was and why. But this was the first movie I saw once I was settled in San Francisco in my new job, my new apartment. And I don't know, I associate this movie with that feeling of elation that, oh, I'm back here, I'm working on something very interesting and very cool. And I think the reason why I did that, because this movie in many ways is a problem solving movie. Matt Damon's character is doing that on his own. He's doing that with the team members who are on Earth or on the other spaceship. You see lots of people huddled in rooms trying to problem solve, understand each other, and sort of really work towards a common goal of bringing him back to Earth. And in his case, just trying to survive and see another day, which to me is what work is. When I have good days or good weeks at work, this is what I take back home, at the end of Friday night, that, oh, we really sort of sat together, brainstormed and solved problems and, created something that could potentially have a lot of impact and meaning. And then, of course, when you get those results, that's sort of the cherry on the cake. So yeah, this movie sort of kind of summarizes that for me. It also summarizes the camaraderie you build with your teammates, because nothing is done, no matter what position and role you're in. This is a team sport. And I think this movie really exemplifies that. Everybody has to bring their A game, no matter where you're at on the totem pole. And it's interesting, like watching interviews of Ridley Scott and the cast and such about the making of the movie. I'll never forget this, that Ridley Scott said that, oh yeah, it was very easy to make this movie. You write everything up, you map it all out, and you go shoot it. It sort of shows, when people know what they're doing and have the right team surrounded, besides them, it's easy. Not saying it's easy every day, but in general, it's easy, So I think it's interesting. There's a bit of a meta quality to this movie in that aspect. And then, this movie also touches on aspects of loneliness and sort of changing dynamics of power struggles between, with the corporation and such, which is very much part of work as well. At least I've experienced that. And in this time, even though I was excited to be back in San Francisco, I'd spent 6 years in LA away from the people I knew. So there was this juxtaposition of excitement as well as loneliness in my own town, in a way, in a new job where people seem cool, but I don't really know them super well. So I think this movie kind of touches on that as well. So yeah, just all in all, a brilliant movie. I watched it several times after that. Just a super tight script. Everything just comes together. Matt Damon is amazing. I don't think he'd done anything that compelling in a while. Oscar nomination, very well deserved in my mind. And the last thing I would mention is that in preparation for this list, I watched this movie again a few days ago, and now it has a whole other meaning because of the pandemic, because this character is literally stuck alone trying to figure stuff out. So I feel like I have to process that detail separately, but yeah, that's my number 3, The Martian. I'm sure you've seen it, Alex.
Yeah, this is a great film. I mean, I definitely echo all the things you said. It's interesting though. I never really looked at this through the lens of work, and it actually is a great like learning and team building. I mean, I'm almost thinking like next team outing or whatever, it's like we should all, myself and my coworkers, like watch this movie, because it is really like, yes, there is this dynamic when you're working that you do feel like sometimes you're solving all these problems by yourself. But in actuality, like, it's really everyone. There's an entire team, makes decisions, makes great products, makes great things happen for your customers. So even though there is a very alone and isolating part of work, there is that team dynamic, and really everyone has to pull together like they do in that film to get Matt Damon home, to get him back to Earth. And there's a sense of duty, but there's also a sense of they just want to solve this problem. And that is a lot of what work is as well, is problem solving. I agree with you. Like, the best work experience I've had have been great teams that solve problems together. And I think just remembering that you're not alone when you're solving these problems, like Damon has to feel, even though he can't communicate it many times in the film with anyone back home, he knows that they're there and they're working with him. And that's definitely something that I admire. And again, the best experiences I've had with my coworkers. So this is actually a great movie, I feel like, for, corporate, offsites and things, to watch The Martian. That's an interesting angle too. You mentioned around the pandemic too. I mean, I've seen this film several times in theater, I think even twice, but I haven't not seen it since the pandemic happened. And I think there's a whole other layer you can for sure put onto this film because of that sense of isolation that everyone kind of felt, and having to communicate with people you know and you love virtually, which Damon has to do throughout that entire film when he's on stranded there. So yeah, it's a fantastic film that I think really will stand the test of time.
Yeah, and just problem solving too, right? Like, living alone, the problems were around work, but also the problems were on survival, right? And I feel like no other movie does such a good job in involving and looping in the audience in the problem solving journey, because often that can be quite removed and boring. And, whether it's growing potatoes or trying to sort of warm himself up with the radiator or nuclear thing that he has, or all of that stuff is just kind of brilliant.
Hey there, it's Alex. If you like the review and discussion Karan and I just had, make sure you subscribe to our channel, Movies That Shaped Us, to get full episodes. Every other Wednesday, Karan and I cover a topic around important people, places, events, and moments in our lives, and then explore it through 3 of our favorite movies. Subscribe right now, or follow our podcast on Spotify or Apple Podcasts via the link in the description below. Hope you join us for the journey.